Hi guys, and welcome to another edition of Leadership Revealed. And I'm really happy and excited to introduce to you Melody Hossaini. Now, Melody is a mindset speaker, coach, and skills trainer. She's got over 20 years experience across 100 countries, and she's written for Forbes, the Huffington Post, the Guardian, and has worked with individuals, educational institutions, and clients such as the New York Times, Facebook, JP Morgan. Melody is also a TEDx speaker and former BBC The Apprentice candidate. Hi, Melody. How are you? And thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, John. Thank you so much. That was a great introduction. Thank you.
Quite an intro, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's always a quite humbling and strange experience, when you hear your own bio. But yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, very impressive. Very
Pleased
impressive
to be here.
Excellent. So do you just want to give everybody a bit of an idea about what you do and a little bit of your background, if that's all right?
Yeah, sure. So look, I'll just tell you now, the magic lies in people. Sometimes we sit there and we think about how can we build a strategy to do this better? How can we build the laws, the policies, the this and the that? And that's so important because that provides the parameters. But actually, the real magic happens when you invest in human potential, in human mindset and skills and what they believe is possible, what we believe is possible. So that's in a nutshell what I do. I'm a mindset coach, trainer, and speaker because I believe our mindset is our control center and everything really stems from there, from your beliefs to the decisions you make, to the experiences you have, the kinds of people you surround yourself with. All comes from how you think, how you perceive the world, how you interpret things. So many years ago, when I came to this country and I couldn't speak English, actually, at the age of 13, I was actually born in Iran and we fled as war refugees because our neighbor's house was actually bombed. And we fled as war refugees to Sweden, where I grew up, and in all had a fantastic childhood there. Wonderful education system and wonderful investment in the communities. And you really felt that and had a good childhood there until an incident where it prompted us to move. And that incident was quite traumatic. It should be, but it's amazing how resilient you are as a child, where it didn't so much affect me, but quite horrific now when I think about it. We were home one day, my brother and I was 12 years old and he was 11, and there was a knock at the door. Our parents were out. They ran a business. It was a shop where they needed to sometimes go to straight away. And we were home and this person knocks on the door and says that your shower's making a noise downstairs. We were living in an apartment. I'd never seen this man downstairs. I felt it was a bit odd. My brother opened the door without seeing who it was, and I was just watching from the living room. He pushes my brother in and comes with a gun and motions for another man behind the door to come in as well. So they both come in with guns. You just in that moment run towards an exit. Ours was a balcony, so I don't know what I was going to do. We live on the 3rd floor, and he just meets me the other side and says, no, and points the gun in my face, gags us, wraps us together, throws us into a wardrobe and says, if your mum comes home while we are here, we will kill her, which is a horrifically unnecessary thing to tell little children. They were sent by people we knew to come and take something very specific, which is horrific. And, that now I can't do, like paintballing and things or video games with the shooting. I can't do that. Even hide and seek is a bit like with somebody coming to get me and like I'm hiding. So that's the only thing. But anyway, we moved after that experience to England and South Staffordshire. And at the age of 13, I was being heavily bullied. Just found it extremely difficult sort of really finding my place because it was I looked this up, 99.9% white British where I lived, the village that we were living in South Staffordshire. So they were asking me questions like, have you got toilets in Iran? I was like, we invented civilization with 8,000 years history. We have toilets, yes. So, interesting experience. But then I found, and this really relates to what I do now, I found that instead of drowning in what was perhaps my destiny at that point, where I was, I decided to give. So I became, at the age of 13, a co-founder of UK Youth Parliament, which is one of the most successful democratic youth organizations. Just wanted to support people's voices to be heard. I just thought, if we're just making decisions about young people's lives, young people should be stakeholders in that. So it's what we did. And on a Saturday, when my friends were kind of, in town or at each other's homes, chilling or whatever, as you would, I was in the House of Parliament sitting and not actually understanding much, because my English wasn't that advanced to really understand everything everybody was talking about, but I understood the mission and I understood I wanted to support it. And we changed laws, and, I met with Tony Blair before this country went to war with Iraq back then. I'm showing my age now, this is a long time ago. And that really formed my passion in developing communities, which then turned into developing people. I understood in order to develop communities and to make a real impact, you got to invest in the way people think and what they believe they can do. Yeah. So I designed skills training. I designed really unique methods, how to engage people in the way that they think about things, and to develop those tools that in each individual ultimately will make a big impact in their lives, but also for the community, the world, So that's what I did.
Wow, that is so impressive. I think when you're sort of from the country and you're part of like what stereotypical the norm, you take it for granted. So do you think because you came over here not speaking the language and going through what you went through in Sweden, that's what gave you that passion, that desire to change what you thought was broken effectively?
Yeah, absolutely. Not just to change what I felt was broken, but also taking opportunities to give and to also better myself. I healed through the process of giving, and I shifted my focus away from what was a really horrific situation at that time, to worst years of my life, even now looking back, to giving and shifting my focus to something bigger than myself, the purpose, which now has formed, my career really. So it's a survival thing, but also you really appreciate opportunities. And one thing when I go now and I speak to young people, I say, look, say yes to every opportunity. You never know what's behind that door. So, when I was in year 8, for example, even when I was 14, it's like, who wants to come at lunchtime to create a health and safety poster for a local business? I will go. And I was like the only one, and me and Charlotte, I dragged my mate along, literally dragged her. Nobody wanted to do anything. She actually won the competition. I never forget it. I was like, I dragged you here and you won it. But I mean, that was me. I took every opportunity and I ran with it. I showed up to places perhaps I wasn't qualified to show up to most people's eyes, but I showed up. You would think, you couldn't speak English properly. It'd be quite daunting to go and sit in the House of Parliament to discuss a strategy of how to set up a UK Youth Parliament. But I showed up, and I feel like sometimes you have to really immerse in something bigger than yourself and get over your own issues, which we all, we all have challenges. We all have setbacks. We all have things we can't do perfectly. And that's part of growth, so I understood that. And I think that, looking back now, I've got children myself, and I do think it was quite brave what I did. But back then it was about survival. It was not about, it would be lovely. It just was about, I have to, and I loved it.
I love that. I mean, it's basically you're taking personal responsibility. You're not being a victim. You're not saying, all right, because I don't speak the language and because, I'm not like from this country, poor me, woe betide me. You're actually being aggressive is the wrong word, but you're being very, very proactive and you're making shit happen basically, aren't you?
Yeah. But what's so funny is that I didn't think I was a victim. I never saw it that way. I used to see it as, I'm so capable. I've got so much to give. I never saw those barriers. And I know some people will say to me, like, that was quite delusional or something, but I think it was proactive. It was almost like I chose the setting I wanted to believe in, and that setting served me, but I could have seen it a different way, and you could factually say that would have been quite correct. I was an ethnic minority. I was very feminine. I was very, I couldn't speak the language properly. There was much. I wasn't educated here. I didn't even know how things worked. There was many things you could say would have given me every right not to go. I didn't know anyone. You know, we were on benefits. We didn't even have the funds really to make those trips to London. I had to get it covered. I had to one time pitch at the local council to even just fund a trip to London to attend something. So, you know, you could say I had all of the barriers there in a way, but I actually didn't see it. And I'm not just saying this now as a motivational thing. Now, when I reflect on my own journey, I realize I just didn't see those things. And in a way, I was a bit delusional. But I actually think, John, I don't know what you're thinking through your journey as a serial entrepreneur. You know, you need a level of delusion, because if you believed everything the world told you can't do, I might as well not get out of bed in the morning. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
You have to set your own beliefs. You have to set what you think is possible. That's your choice. That's your responsibility, actually, not just choice, but a responsibility. And that is why I became so insanely passionate about training people and coaching people on mindsets, because I think once you use those tools, and it's, by the way, it's different for every person. If your listeners are waiting for me now to give them the secrets, like 1 to 10, follow these steps, well, you know, I would have written a book if it was that, like if it was literally just as simple as follow these steps. But I don't like it when people do that, because it simplifies something very complex. You know, the human brain is complex. The human journey is very individual, and every person's different. If I were to coach, you know, Anna's journey would be really different to Evelyn's, because they are completely different people. The connections in the brain are formed so sophisticatedly and so uniquely for each person, depending on your early years and experiences and choices you've made. So the solutions are different. But once each individual learns the tools you can use to really harness the power of your mindset and the way you perceive things, wow, that's magic.
Yeah, I mean, I went through a little bit of it, probably about 20 years ago. Lost my dad. Because of that, we lost the business. I gave a kidney to my brother. He was on the donors list. My mum had cancer. Lost my grandparents.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
Oh no, it's a bit like yourself. It's I could have sat back there and said, "Woe betide me," and, you know, gone down the wrong path. But it was a case I used that as fuel to start the business and other businesses and whatnot. And I think you can't. There's a fork in the road. We all have choices. And I know people say failure is not an option. Failure is an option. Failure is the easiest thing you can do, because you basically sit there and do nothing. That's what failure is. But I love it when people are mentally tough and mentally resilient. And I hate this victim mentality. And I know there's, you know, the quality of opportunity, I agree with. Equality of outcome, I don't. You know, quotas just because of whatever reason. And I think we need to get mentally tough, but mental health is a real issue at the moment, and I get it. And, you know, my wife has anxiety, and I've got friends who suffer for it and are getting treatment and whatnot. How would you become mentally tough? How would you become mentally resilient in such a modern age where social media can have it can work well, but it can also be the devil?
See, you said an example of your wife and your friend, right? Now, if you were to really think about those two individuals, you would understand and appreciate how different it is for your friend and your wife, and they're not the same thing, right? So we can't generalize people's paths or solutions or why something's come about. But I do acknowledge that at the moment in this country, particularly, it is rife. It is people are feeling quite knocked from life experiences. And there are many reasons to this. I mean, we could talk about this for hours. We could look at the politics, we could look at society, we could look at many aspects of why this has come about. Now, to answer your question, though, is how can people become more mentally resilient? I really believe one way is to literally go towards. Some people you need to run towards. Some people, if you can't manage it, just take a step towards something that makes you uncomfortable, right? Now, this sounds really cliche, you know, you got the whole step out of your comfort zone thing, right? But for example, if you are somebody who you find it difficult to be in, let's say, large social settings, for example, right? Find a joy that you can relate to, that you have, and place it in a large social setting and take a step. You know, you got to find your anchor. Find that anchor. We all need a sense of security.
Yeah.
You can't throw just, you know, literally, you know, I mean, that's not for everyone. So I appreciate that, but take a step. When you take a step towards your discomfort, then you begin to develop, your resilience kicks in. You might not be aware of it even, right? Because it's just a step. If you go closer and closer and closer, really go step in, then you'll feel it more, but it kicks in. It's like a muscle. We like, if I say to you now, look, no, John, you're going to do leg day today. We're going to develop this leg muscle exercises. First, you need the knowledge. Like if you've never done it before, you're going to say to me, what does leg exercises? What does it look like? What do I need to do? Here's a video, watch it. Great. You've got the knowledge now of what you need to do. But of course, your legs are not going to benefit from you having the knowledge. So the next step is for you to do the exercise, right? At first, it's going to seem odd. You're literally might have to look at the video, do a step, do the video, because it's something you're introducing to your body. And your leg is not going to respond straight away. It's going to feel quite uncomfortable. And the next day, you're even going to have aches, right? Now, the only way you overcome that is by doing it again. You do it again, your leg goes, hold on, we've done this before. Oh, I know which way to go. It's this way. And slowly, you won't need the instructions. You don't even need to refer it into your mind. You can have a phone conversation and your body will know what it needs to do. Now that becomes a taught thing. It's the same with the brain. The brain, the first time you introduce something to it, it's going to feel very uncomfortable and it's going to feel wrong, right? And it's only because it's new and your brain is going, hold up a minute, what's happening? We haven't done this before, not quite sure I like it. And it's going to feel uncomfortable after as well. And you're going to have to pull your brain to do it. You literally need to show it, like that exercise. But the first few times you do it, the 5th time, 6th time, you won't even feel uncomfortable. It will feel natural. And your brain will recognize it. It will build a new pattern and it will go, oh yeah, I know this one. It goes like this. And the pattern and connection in your brain will strengthen and you'll respond better. Now that's called mental resilience. That's how you do it, by introducing it, taking a step, going through the discomfort, knowing that that is a necessary part of introducing it to your mind and to your psyche, and you keep on treading on those paths and strengthening the connection. And there you've developed what is one example of mental resilience.
Could not agree with that more. That is absolutely what I tell people as well. So I'm big into my training, love the gym, you know, train all the time. And my old coach from years and years ago, he said, growth only comes from pain. Now, that was, you've got to take that with a little pinch of salt. But what he means by that is if I'm doing squats for my legs, if I go away and I'm not aching, I haven't had a good workout. And I still think that today, because you know, your muscles are hypertrophy when you're growing, it's ripping. Effectively, your muscles are ripping and then growing back together. So I agree with that. And there's also something, I don't know if you've read a book called The Talent Code, Daniel Coyne, unbelievable, where he talks about myelinization, about how the more you do something, the brain grows stronger, patterns in your brain, so it can do it quicker, better, faster.
Absolutely.
So no, it 100% backs up.
But the goalpost moves, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So you got to move with the goalposts. So something that's a goal for you now, because you've done that beginning part of the training, it'll be a different goal. So you got to keep moving the goalpost, keep pushing yourself. Your discomfort level might be in a different place now to someone else who's just starting out. Absolutely. So it's a very unique personal journey, and we've got to build that self-awareness. Self-awareness is so important. Be in connection to yourself, right? You touched on social media earlier. Now we can't have conversations about this not talking about social. Look, I'm a fan of, like, a client recently said to Melody, you know, they were getting in touch with me for delivering a keynote job, right? And they're sitting on a panel, and they went through an agency and went through. I was like, if I wasn't responding on some, you know, an email or something, I didn't get their email, but if get in touch with me, slide on my DMs on Instagram. That's kind of where I live, you know, get in touch with me that way. I love social media. I'm a sharer. I used to journal before, and now I see social media as kind of like my public journal. Like, I met someone in the park the other day who was like, so how was Dubai? How was this? Oh, I saw your son signed for Birmingham City Football Club. And how's this? I was like, how do you know? And I was like, oh yeah, of course. I share it. I just don't happen to know you, but you know everything about me. I'm a fan of social media, but I didn't grow up with it, right? Now, and also I guard my own kind of mental space really, really carefully. Okay. So of course things penetrate, and of course I can be affected, and my kind of norm is built through social media and what I'm exposed to. I can't lie to you. Of course I do. I'm a human being and we're all affected by each other. But if somebody hasn't got that really clear picture of themselves, okay, and they are constantly, we are being fed so much data every single day, we have to be really careful about what we perceive as our truth. Okay. And this is where you have to build your own self-awareness, check in with yourself, have a really close relationship with yourself, feel connected to yourself and who you are, so that when you are exposed to lots of different things, that you can go through a filter and go, okay, I'm being told this is the truth. Let it go through my own personal filter and see if I want to adopt this as truth, or do I want to reject it and say, actually, no, this isn't me. We need that. That is so fundamentally important. And this, again, I call identity, is the first module that we cover in the training that I do and the coaching that I do, whether it's to children or adults.
Speaking of the kids and stuff, I mean, we were talking a little bit off there. What age do you think that children can actually benefit from, you know, this type of training, coaching mindset? And in what ways can it do that can help? Can it like set them up to deal with the pressures? Because there is a constant lot of pressure at the minute on social media and life in general. How does that work?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I've always been really passionate about youth work and, you know, training young people and developing young people's minds, because I think it's like a blank canvas, you know. With adults, and I love working with adults because it's got such depth and they've got such history, you know, and it's so fascinating. But with adults, you're sometimes undoing certain things. You're undoing certain thought patterns. Whereas with children, it's about a blank canvas, and you can plant the right seeds for them and teach them the tools so that they can become who they want to be. And with children, I think it's so powerful. Like, you've got a 7-year-old, you were saying, right? We ask children all the time, what do you want to do when you're older? What do you want to do when you're older? But we rarely ask children, who do you want to be?
Yeah.
Who do you want to become? And this is an article that I wrote for the Huffington Post, was about this fundamental question of asking children who. Now, what you do, you know this, will change in your lifetime. You know, you have different careers, the what changes, but the who you fundamentally are is so important, and that remains the same. We grow, but who we fundamentally are is our asset. So with children, it's about really getting them to think about who they are and who they want to become, you know, and building that pride in that. So I run a program after COVID. If before COVID, if I said to a little child, come to the computer, we're going to do personal growth and mindset, through, you know, them sitting there through the computer, it just wouldn't happen. But because they started doing the distance learning and all of that stuff, online learning, we launched Coaching for Kids. Now, Coaching for Kids is aimed at 4 to 16-year-olds, all about developing resilience, growth mindset, you know, that self-awareness, confidence, communication, all these important tools and life skills. And I don't think you're ever too young to develop. The youngest child I have trained online on this program was 3 years old,
Really?
but we do say 4 to 16 is the age.
Yeah. I agree. I think, you know, I'm not, you know, teachers and syllabus or anything like that, but I mean, it's been said since I was a kid, look, man, God knows how many years ago, that what you get taught in schools does not set you up to be a fully functioning adult. Yes, you need to learn, you know, English, mathematics, sciences and stuff, but it depends what you want to be in life. But the skills that you're teaching them and coaching is all about confidence, mental resilience, mental toughness, everything that you need on a day-to-day basis, real life skills.
One of the quotes I love the most that really relates to this topic of conversation is Einstein, who said, everybody's a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it's going to live its whole life believing it's stupid.
Yeah.
Society can't define one route to success for children that are so vastly different. So but it's your responsibility to figure out who you are and what you're good at and what you can do. And this is why I'm so passionate about the theme of personal responsibility, you know, and I think that building a strong mindset develops that within you. So when I work with children, we had one child, her parent, they're vastly different, the clients that I have. Some are super achievers, they need to balance the pressure and things. Some are, you know, really need the what I would call foundational tools. Everybody's different, and I love working with all of them. But I had one parent who came to me and said, look, my daughter is the selective mute. She hasn't spoken in 1.5 years at school. They've never even heard her say her name. She'd literally not spoken at school. She came to me. We had 6 sessions. She'd booked 10 sessions, but by the 6th session, she came to the session with a certificate because she had volunteered and put her hand up and told her teacher about this book that she'd read. And the teacher was amazed. And it's about, and I can't say it's about working magic. It's simply about tapping into that person's mind and building a good feeling. It's got to feel good. You know, that's one thing I promised myself with my clients. Once the sessions ended, no matter how uncomfortable I made you feel, because growth can be uncomfortable, and I'll hold a mirror to you that maybe you haven't seen for many years, particularly with my adult clients. But by the end of it, I want you to walk away feeling good, exhilarated, you know, and that's good feeling can unlock a lot of potential in us as well. It's not just, you know, the discomfort and the this and the that and pushing and, you know, and the to-do lists and all of this stuff. Sometimes it's just feeling good and peace opens a lot of potential as well. And I think that's important.
Yeah, it is. It's like you are unlocking individual human potential, isn't it? It's what we said at the beginning and offline is it's very individualistic. There's no sort of set script. You've just got a ton of tools in your tool belt, and you just pull out various things to help them on based on individual circumstances.
You've got a tool belt. I've got a toolbox.
Yeah, toolbox.
That's what I always say. Toolbox. A tool belt is good.
Yeah. Brilliant. You do a lot of work with young women and females and stuff. There's a lot of industries that are very, very typically male dominated. How would you, especially in, you know, the STEM industries, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and, you know, speaking off air, I've set up a tech company, and I was explaining to you the issues we've had with developers. So, you know, we've got 2 full-time developers. We've had probably 50 CVs, and I believe we had 1 female apply. I'm looking for a sales manager. We've only had a couple of women apply. How do we get, and because I am 100% sure, convinced, I'm on board that having women on boards, I mean, I've read up to like 60% more effective by having a fair, balanced board in certain corporates. How do we get that? How do we encourage more women to go for traditionally male-dominated industries?
So, yeah, no, it's a really interesting question, and I'm glad you asked this, and I'm glad that you as a business owner is really paying attention to that, and that does need to happen as well. You know, I'm a member of the FTSE 100 companies group that really gets women. We look at how to progress women through the corporate pipeline, okay? Now, look, in brief, because this is another big topic that one could go into a book's worth, but in brief, I do think there is an onus on women to put themselves forward, okay? There's also an onus, which I'll come on to another side of it, but the first bit is we've got to put ourselves forward. Now, when I speak to my female clients and when I go to companies and I do all this training and things with companies, what I see is that women need to tick all requirements before they apply. If they even don't tick one, they're like, oh, I don't think I'm qualified to apply for that. I don't think I'll get it. So they may not. Men, on the other hand, they need to hit about 50 to 60% of the requirements, and they think that that's good enough to apply and put myself forward. Now that needs to change, okay? So women have to put themselves forward more and really kind of, and I think that's the first step, putting yourself forward, apply for things, ask for the promotion, believe that you've qualified enough, that, you know, because people can learn on the job as well. Or sometimes people want to see potential, they want to see a willingness, and the rest, I'm willing to invest in you to develop the rest of the experience to get, you know, so you've got to put yourself forward. That's the first thing. But there is also an onus on society to also be less judgmental to women who are ambitious. Now, I say this through a little bit of personal experience, because when I was on The Apprentice, which is a very much of a corporate dog-eat-dog world type environment, look, I'm a fighter. You've heard my story. You know, I'm a fighter, not because I'm ambitious and I want to, you know, a money lover, because I would be in a different industry, but because I am a fighter because of where I've come from, and I believe in being passionate about who I am. Now, and I fought a lot of big fights to get here, you know. So when I was on The Apprentice and I was really kind of putting myself forward and I was talking about what I can bring to the table. Now, The Apprentice is heavily edited, obviously, so everything you see, you have to take it a bit like, but I was a fighter. Now, if I was fighting and I was fighting for the sales or for the opportunity or whatever, people were like, she's so ruthless. That was the general perception. It's viewed by 9 million people every week. She's so ruthless. And people didn't perceive the ambition and likability were not positively correlated. Whereas to men, if men did the same thing, and they did in our process that year, they wanted to fight for the sales and they wanted to put themselves forward. People were like, wow, he's so capable. He's a go-getter, pat on the back type thing. So this obviously does not help women's progression either. And sometimes women tend to perhaps hold themselves. So there are these two elements. If there are women listening right now, go for it. Put yourself forward. Fight that fight. You got to do that. You can learn on the job. You don't need to have everything to start. Nobody has everything to start. So put yourself forward. But to everybody else listening, I think, you know, be really mindful of the judgment on women, and how can we create an environment where women can thrive in a more of a fair, you know, playing field.
I think when I had the agency, you know, we had 60 staff, 11 branches, and we were at one point 90% women. And I would say our best managers, my MD was a woman, my area manager was a woman, both of them. Most of the managers were women. And I think there were a lot more, and this is just off, you know, growing businesses, and I've got friends who've got businesses. Women are a hell of a lot more conscientious, and they care more. They've got an awful lot more empathy. And I think maybe, you know, that conscientiousness prevents them. It's brilliant, it's great, but it inhibits people. Like you said, oh, there's 10 boxes I've got to tick. I only tick 8 of them. Where the guy's like, I've only got 4, I'm going to go for it. And sometimes, you know, I totally echo what you said. Girls, just go for it. You know, give it a go. What's the worst that can happen? You didn't get it? Well, go again, go again, go again. And I think that's a message we've got to get through to young people and young girls coming through the ranks as well.
Yeah. But of course, every woman's different as well. So I don't want to kind of generalize or put women in a box and say they're generally this or they're generally that. Everyone's different. But yes, I mean, neurologically, they have a more multi-layered brain and can really have many thoughts at the same time exist in their mind. And they are more empathetic, generally, women, you know, in their brains. But everyone is different. So yeah, it's fascinating. It's fascinating. It
really is. Melody, I could talk literally for hours to you about this subject. I think we're pretty much in tune with our thoughts and our beliefs, which is great. Really, really nice to hear. I just want to say thank you so much for doing this. I know you're very, very busy. If people want to get in touch with you or follow you on social or even learn more about your coaching one-on-one personalized, how do they get in touch?
They can come onto the website, melodyhossaini.com. They can get in touch with me, give me a follow on Instagram. I talk about a lot of these themes on there, or LinkedIn. Find me on there, or Twitter, Melody_Hossaini, same for Instagram. And just stay in touch with me. And I'm happy to help if people want to drop me an email or whatever. I pride myself on getting back to people. So they can find me on there.
Excellent. We'll put all the links to the socials and how to get in touch in the description. But Melanie, once again, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, John. I appreciate that.